Hello, 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 hello. What's going on? What's good? What's good? What's good? My name is CoVa, the Technician. We're back at it again with another live stream podcast versus YouTube channel. Which is better? Got some things to go over, but you know how I usually do. Let's get back to the intro. A lot of people get confused with podcasts and YouTube and the YouTube and the podcast and video podcast and audio podcast. And is that still like a YouTube channel? And which one is it? Which one is better for you? I've been doing the research so that you don't have to, but let's get back to it. I can give some great information tonight. Hope you learned something. Hope you take something from it so that you can do your own video podcast. You can have your own YouTube channel. You can have your own separate podcast so everything can make sense. But when you come to the channel, let's go. Shout out to A-Win. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is CoVa, the Technician. I'm glad to be back at it again with another live stream. Shout out to the people watching in the chat room, people watching in the clouds, and the people watching this on the replay. I greatly appreciate it for you for tuning in for another live stream. Now, like I said earlier in the intro, This live stream is going to be about podcast versus YouTube channel, which is better. Reason why I'm doing this video, a lot of people don't kind of understand the difference. A lot of people get confused. A lot of people don't know. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing what I'm going to be doing tonight, to break it down, give you my thoughts, my opinions, a little bit of facts from industry professionals, because if you don't believe a small guy like me, I guess you got to believe it when you hear it from the big timers. But you know, we're not gonna get into that. Shout out to A-Win is timeless. There goes a bad man. We got Professor Black Ops in the building. What is up, chat? Salute to Professor Black Ops. We're gonna switch these up a little bit. Gotta take these off for the intro, and we're gonna switch to my favorites because we gotta match the shades to the live stream. We're gonna put these bad boys on. Yes, indeed. And I'm gonna show you a couple of videos, and I'm gonna talk about them, give you my opinion, I'm gonna break it down. And I've watched the videos before, so I have an idea of what they're talking about again. So I'm not gonna leave you people hanging by breaking down videos that I have not seen at all whatsoever, because you know that didn't work out very well the last time we did that. So let's get the right one ready. Oh yeah, that's the right one. Let's turn it down. So we're gonna watch a couple of videos. We're gonna break it down. I'm not gonna watch the video entirely, but I'm just going to give my thoughts and impressions about what's shown on the screen. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and I hope you take something away from this live stream. First up is Pat Flynn. Let's get Pat Flynn on the Summer Jam screen. Okay, so we got good old Pat here, and I gotta switch this over a little bit. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna switch this over. Just gonna move this over here. Let's see. Okay. I figured that out.
Each of them at the same time for the same specific content. There's a couple people who do that very well. Shalene Johnson and also Antonio Centeno from Real Men, Real Style. They repurpose their content very well too. So perhaps we'll do another video later about how 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That Barry says, yeah, this is a good format and timing in the UK is perfect. That's good to know because I had no idea. Hustle Husband says, you can do videos in your underwear too if you get the, I mean, you don't know what's underneath this shirt right now. I'm just saying, so that's true. Let's see. Brooke says, video really only works for me because art is so visual. Good point. Again, remember I was talking about niches earlier, or niches for those of you in the UK, but I like niches because the riches are in the niches. The riches in the niches doesn't sound very cool. But yeah, okay, cool. So Tim is Tim Schmoyer from Video Creators, helping change lives one video at a time. Okay, last, let's talk about trending. Now, there's going to be perhaps a little bit of back and forth on this, but I'm going to make it quick. I was at Vid Summit, which is an event put on by Daryl Eves, who I have to also give a big shout out to for helping me get to 100,000 subscribers. Follow Daryl. He has nearly 500,000 subscribers. He talks about YouTube. He knows the guys at YouTube. He has a lot of the latest information about YouTube as well. So I went to Vid Summit, met a lot of those guys. That's actually where I got very connected with the kind and welcoming community that is the YouTube community. The podcasting community is great as well. I'm actually keynoting Podcast Movement, and I'll be speaking at Vid Summit too. So this is like, I'm speaking at both of these kinds of things later this year. But Gary Vaynerchuk spoke on stage at Vid Summit. He was the closing keynote, and he spoke about how all of the video people who were there should be paying attention to audio. And it was really interesting for him to go, Gary V, with a lot of influence, saying, hey, video guys, you guys need to start paying attention to audio, which A, was really exciting to me because primarily I was a podcaster, and I feel like I still am primarily a podcaster. I mean, if I had to choose one of these to start from scratch, I would choose podcasting mostly because of the creation process and the relationship building process. If I could start with a small, very intimate group of listeners that could become fans who could listen to me much longer, that's going to be a lot easier for me to work with versus, you know, this very crowded space of YouTube. But YouTube has been fantastic too. A lot of things are happening on the YouTube space in my brand that have never happened before because of the videos I'm creating. Anyway, Gary's saying, you know, Alexa and Spotify and iHeartRadio, which has gone bankrupt. But, you know, video is great, but audio is something you should definitely pay attention to.
I had no idea.
And when it comes to the sheer numbers and things that are finally starting to happen in the podcasting space, I really do, and this may be a little bit biased, but I think the trend is upward, much bigger on podcast versus video. Now, video is definitely being consumed a lot more than ever before, but same with podcasting. But I think trend-wise, if you're going to start and have that be a factor, I really do think that podcasting would be it. Now, let's count these out here.
Alan Jones, what's going on? Salute.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 and 5. And guys, I did that on purpose, right? Because really, the real answer is both are great. Both are great for different reasons, depending on your niche, who you are, what you feel comfortable with, the kinds of things you want to create. If you want to tell very long stories, you need to do it very well on YouTube with a lot of visual elements to go behind it. Or you could just tell a great story as if you're sitting with a friend in a cafe on a podcast-like thing. So John says, podcasts are easier to learn from while you're driving. True. Podcast is more your own than renting your own space on YouTube. That's
okay. Sorry about that. I had to set my damn thing up. So this is a 34-minute video. Obviously, I'm not going to play the whole video. The reason why I have it at the end because I can break down each tab that he has on the screen as you see it here. So first, you have competition. Now, the difference between YouTube and podcast is really the competition. I'm going to explain that now. All my YouTube videos, I upload them on Anchor, absolutely. So with YouTube, you have to compete. Every time you do a video on YouTube, you have to compete with 500 million other videos. Okay? That's a fact. You have to compete with 500 million other videos. With podcasts, you only got to compete with about 500,000 podcasts. There's the difference right there. There's only at most 650,000 podcasts that you can download and listen to all on pretty much all podcasting platforms. This was as of 2018, so the number probably doubled to almost close to 1 million, which is still far better than competition on YouTube. So there's that. On top of that, you got the reach or the findability. The reach and findability when it comes to YouTube and podcasts are going to be vastly different. But the simple fact is, YouTube has so many built-in features to help you reach more people who would be interested in listening to your podcast, who would be able to who would not find your video, or would be interested in watching your videos. All of these things are built into YouTube's system with their algorithm. That system doesn't exist when it comes to podcasting platforms in general. There is no complex computer system algorithm to help you reach and find more people. It just doesn't exist. So because that doesn't exist, there we go. So because that doesn't exist, it makes it harder for people to actually find your podcast, which again gives another nod to YouTube. So now we have let me see what that word is. I can't see. Consumption. Now, consumption is based on how people consume the product, right? So obviously, we're gonna have to just give that, like he said, and like I would agree, you're gonna have to give that to podcast format, because people are more likely to listen to a podcast than listen to a YouTube video. You got iTunes podcasts, you got different podcasting apps, you got Anchor, you got so many ways for people to actually listen to a podcast. It's a lot easier and it makes more sense than listening to a YouTube video and having a YouTube video play in the background. Because unless you have YouTube Premium, you can't play YouTube videos in the background. So that's why he gives the nod to podcasting. Now the relationships is the same. You have people who listen to podcasts loyally. You have people who watch YouTube channels loyally. They tune in for every live stream. They tune in for every upload. They tune in for every podcast drop. They tune in for all the behind the scenes information for podcasts. So the nod goes for both of those platforms. Engagement. Hands down, YouTube is going to win when it comes to engagement. YouTube is better at engagement with a comment section. YouTube is better at engagement with live stream interactions. Anchor share my podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Google. Absolutely. And Anchor is a great platform for that. You can't engage with a podcast. There's no engagement with a podcast. You can't talk to the person as the podcast is going on. You can't, communicate with the person as the podcast is going on. There's no such thing. So hands down, YouTube beats podcasts when it comes to engagement. Analytics. Again, another nod to YouTube, because YouTube has all the analytical features you can possibly ever want when it comes to understanding the retention rates, the engagement, the demographics of people who are watching you. You can get all of that built into the YouTube system. And they have a bunch of third-party softwares where you can pull even more data, or even understand the data that much better. Coming to the podcast, you don't really have all of that kind of data. Most you got is downloads and listens, and that's pretty much it. So you have to find out or figure that out for yourself. So of course, YouTube beats podcasting in that metric alone. Now, I want you to listen to what he says about creation. I'm gonna mute this and we're gonna play this.
Of course, if the content's great, they're gonna stick around, but those things help a person continue to watch your videos. On a podcast, you just have to tell great stories and be engaging and be interesting and give information that's really helpful. And again, remember, people are listening for much longer. So creation, I got to give it to podcasts. I got to give it to podcasting. So batch process. Hey, what's up, CJ? Good to see you. Stan, thumbs up. Thank you. I appreciate that. Barry says, yeah, this is a good format, and timing in the UK is perfect. That's good to know because I had no idea. Hustle Husband says, you can do videos in your underwear too if you get the, I mean, you don't know what's underneath this shirt right now. I'm just saying, so that's true. Let's see. Brooke says, video really only works for, he has nearly 500,000 subscribers. Be a lot Spotify and bigger. There are pros. None of these are going to have it. Ask you guys a quote, own start and have that be a factor. I really do think that podcasting would be it. Now let's count these up here. One that have never happened before, you know, this very crowded space of YouTube, but podcaster, I mean, if I had to choose one kind and welcoming community, that is the YouTube community. The podcasting community is great as well. I'm actually keynoting podcast movement, and I'll be speaking at Vid Summit too. So this is like, I'm speaking at both of these kinds of things later this year. But Gary Vaynerchuk spoke on stage at Vid Summit. He was the closing keynote, and he spoke about how all of the video people who were there should be paying attention to audio. And it was really interesting for him to go, Gary V, with a lot of influence, saying, hey, video guys, you guys need to start paying attention to audio, which A, was really exciting to me because primarily I was a podcaster, and I feel like I still am primarily a podcaster. I mean, if I had to choose one of these to start from scratch, right, I would choose podcasting mostly because of the creation process and the relationship building process. If I could start with a small, very intimate group of listeners that could become fans who could listen to me much longer, that's going to be a lot easier for me to work with versus, you know, this very crowded space of YouTube. But YouTube has been fantastic too. A lot of things are happening on the YouTube space in my brand that have never happened before because of the videos I'm creating. Anyway, Gary's saying, you know, Alexa and Spotify.
Manny Mayweather says, nothing beats clean audio. I find myself veering away from listening to panels. Some people call in doing other things in the background. And, I mean, it's unbearable when you get that. I mean, I think it truly ruins the listening experience, the experience of watching or listening to the video when you have just like purely atrocious audio, and it makes you tune out the channel and tune out the content creator. So it's very important to make sure you have audio on point, even when it comes to people tuning in if you have a panel, which is why I don't really do a lot of panels, because I can't tolerate, like, you know, the crappy crackling and people driving pickup trucks and outside with jackhammers and shit when I'm trying to run a show, you know? I've never had that experience, but just, you know, just to co-sign what you're saying. On panels, I am in agreement with the guests. The over laugh aloud. Sorry. On panels, I am agreeing with the guests. Laugh aloud, sir. I don't understand. All right, anyway. Let's go ahead.
Spotify and iHeartRadio, which has gone bankrupt. But, you know, video is great, but audio is something you should definitely pay attention to. And when it comes to the sheer numbers and things that are finally starting to happen in the podcasting space, I really do, and this may be a little bit biased, but I think the trend is upward, much bigger on podcast versus video. Now, video is definitely being consumed a lot more than ever before, but same with podcasting. But I think trend-wise, if you're going to start and have that be a factor, I really do think that podcasting would be it. Now, let's count these up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 and 5. And guys, I did that on purpose, right? Because really, the real answer is both are great.
Absolutely.
Both are great for different reasons, depending on your niche, who you are, what you feel comfortable with, the kinds of things you want to create. If you want to tell very long stories, you need to do it very well on YouTube with a lot of visual elements to go behind it. Or you could just tell a great story as if you're sitting with a friend in a cafe on a podcast-like thing. So John says, podcasts are easier to learn from while you're driving. True. Podcast is more your own than renting your own space on YouTube. That's true as well. So podcasting, you actually, quote, own that content.
Yes, you own your podcast. You never truly own your video.
YouTube's given you a lot of things to work with, right? The analytics, the findability, just the reach, which podcasting does not. So there are pros and cons to each, and I'm hoping that this video has been helpful for you just to make decisions moving forward, because a lot of times we make decisions without even knowing what's going on. Hopefully you know a little bit of what's going on now so you can make an informed decision moving forward. Now, I do want to talk a little bit, and right after this point, I'm going to ask you guys a question, and one of your answers will be randomly selected to win to win something. I'll mention that in just a moment. And those of you watching the replay, same thing. I'll ask a follow-up question, a different question. And if you're watching the replay of this, answer that in the comments, and I'll select somebody next week. So the last point is, can you do both? Now, like I said earlier, you shouldn't, record my voice, and that's all I have to do. Everything else happens because over.
Okay. Come back to you guys real quick. Because I know sometimes when you're playing the videos, it can get a little draining. K-Business Podcast, I'm glad I started my podcast. I'm glad you started creating as well. So with Axe Pat or Pat Flynn, both platforms are useful. Absolutely, both platforms are 100% useful for whatever it is that you want to do. 100% useful for whatever it is that you want to do. But my main point that I wanted to make, and kind of what I want to talk about in this live stream, is that there's a clear difference between the two unless you find a way to merge them together. And I'm going to show you that in the next upload. So the next video we got coming up is Think Media, and we're going to be talking about the video podcasting formula. So now, the difference between podcasts and YouTube videos is mainly focusing on, one is recorded video content, and the second is recorded audio content. Kind of the similar formats, telling stories to convey a point or give news information. Whatever you want to call it, right? So, let me just include more of myself in this. This is the most annoying thing when it comes to dealing with my green screen, is that, there we go. I have that issue, and then we got this little black part here, and I don't know why it's like that. Let's see. I have learned so much watching your channel, so I appreciate that. Shout out to K Business Pod. I appreciate that. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm hoping that when I'm doing these live streams, that people actually learn something from what I'm doing, what I'm talking about. Because all I want to do is help the people and share information. I don't like gatekeeping information, and I don't like giving people the wrong information. So there goes that, right? Like I always say, if you like what you hear, like what you're seeing, definitely like and subscribe and share this out to your social media platforms so more people can get this information like yourself. So next we got Think Media up, and we're talking about the Joe Rogan podcast formula, how to start a video podcast the smart way. So it's a 7-minute video. I'm gonna let this video rock out. It is a great video. And of course, you know Joe Rogan. He has one of the most popular podcasts on the planet, the Joe Rogan Show. I've never really sat down and watched an episode of the Joe Rogan Show, but it's still a popular podcast nonetheless. Let's get into it. Of course, it's muted.
This is the Ask Gary V show, or his interview show. It's a video podcast, then can go everywhere else. Some of the really good YouTube channels to study are H3H3, extremely big influence, long form video podcast with a second YouTube channel on highlights. Joe Rogan would be another great example of this. Long form conversations with interesting people, but then out of those conversations come all kinds of buzzworthy clips, and those clips alone can get hundreds of thousands of views.
Devon Roberts, what's going on? Devon Roberts says, podcast, due to me always being on the move, I'm not always able to sit down and watch a video, but a podcast is easy to listen while you can get moving. Absolutely, right? That's one of the biggest benefits of a podcast, is listening to it while you're on the move. Unless you have YouTube Premium, you can play YouTube videos on the background on your phone.
Millions of views. And so that's what H3H3 is doing as well. Definitely a channel worth looking at, seeing how they're doing it. Jay Shetty, again, a video podcast strategy, making sure that a camera is always on when recording the audio podcast and then distributing that across platform. If this is some of our stuff, if you want, thinkgearguide.com. If you, we have some stuff as far as gear and our top recommended gear. That's kind of our main zone of genius, is helping with gear. This is Mike and Shauna Jones. They run a lash company in Las Vegas, and they have a couple physical lash stores, lash artists working for them, e-commerce, selling lash, where they've just one camera, 4K recording resolution. They go straight through. Nothing really fancy about it, but it's the only podcast in their industry that's educating like the business of the lash industry. And so they just share their wisdom, their advice for about 25 minutes. They don't even do editing. Omar actually on our Think Media team helps them edit that. So, and we're over 8 figures for them. And so, yeah, is content. This is Jay Bear, and he is kind of a more kind of corporate social media cookie. People post that all over social media. It gives them all kinds of free press and marketing. And so he, we were hanging out the other day at social media. So he launched the Talk Trigger show, and he had the break.
So what I'm getting from this video is simply kind of what I've always kind of talked about on my channel, is taking your stream clips, like how I've done in the past, take your stream clips, re-upload them as separate clips, and that's kind of the same video podcasting formula. So when it comes to video podcasting and live streaming kind of run down the same street from what I'm seeing here, which makes sense, because if you understand how to diversify your content and pick apart the best strategies and add them to what you're doing, it makes the game that much easier. Let's continue.
Branding done. His team does it. Here's the value prop. It's 7 minutes.
Got me thinking.
Or less
Absolutely.
A week. It's one case study of a business that is having successful word of mouth marketing. And so he shares that, I believe. And of course, YouTube is a marathon and not a sprint. But the cool thing with Jay is that 76 views. And then they cut out micro content from the uploading it natively to LinkedIn is a highlight.
Okay. Because he is taking a while to get to the point. That's the frustrating thing.
Jay is that he set out to say, my show is actually going to be platform agnostic. So he actually uploads those episodes as well on like LinkedIn. LinkedIn, 876 views. And then they cut out micro content from those same shows. That is a highlight. That's got 1,400 views of that piece of micro content that is updated. They dress the ending or the intros a little bit different according to uploading it natively to LinkedIn or to YouTube, but it's the same show weekly to just impact across platform. That same show also is embedded on his website where they can get a lot of clients and sign new clients there. And then it's also audio across all platforms, all again focused on a signature show that just goes across platform with a
And there go the podcasting platforms right there. There they go.
simple, sustainable value proposition. And it's been huge to not only continue to drive new business for them, but he also wanted to keep his book top of mind and continuing to sell.
So video podcasts are powerful, but it's just the beginning of the journey. Because the next question is, how do you actually get views on your video podcast? And I actually have a video with the 3 best
people, but then out of those conversations come all kinds of
Okay, so pretty much the video podcasting concept is pretty much similar to what I've talked about, taking your live stream content, clipping that, re-uploading that as separate videos, taking that audio format, if you just want to use the audio format, uploading that as a separate podcast, uploading your recorded live stream as a video podcast, or just record your entire live stream as an audio podcast. I mean, shit. I mean, I didn't talk about this shit like long time ago. I've been talking about this since last year, since the beginning of this year, honestly. And I've talked about this last year, so it's not new for me. I've talked about this. It's an easy concept for me to understand because it makes so much damn sense. So, again, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about right now, podcast versus YouTube channel, there's pros and cons of both. But the best way for you to maximize the benefits of a podcast and a YouTube channel is by repurposing the content to fit the platform or to fit the strategy that you want to use. So, simply put, you can upload a video on YouTube and to cut that up and re-upload it as a podcast and then share those clips out to various social media platforms so you can grow the channel and you can grow the podcast. Like how I'm recording my video now on OBS, right? So if I just wanted to record my video and keep my audio track, let me see. Instead of me recording all of the audio tracks, I can set my recording to just record the main audio track and leave everything alone, which I believe I have it set up and it is actually doing that. So with my OBS, I'm recording my solo audio track, and I hope that it should be like that. I'm recording my main audio track, which is audio track 1, which is my mic. Everything else, all the music, the sound effects, all of that isn't getting picked up. So then when I go and edit my video, all I have is my mic and my video, and I don't have none of my music that's playing in the background. So I can add that later separately. And if I want to upload all of this as a podcast, all I would simply do is to pull the audio track of the edited video, bring it into Audition, trim it, edit it, curate the audio, zoom. There goes the podcasting on Anchor, Spotify, whatever you want to do. You just got to understand how to repurpose your content. Once you get that concept down, you're cooking with grease. So the next video is a video by a content creator named Gillian Perkins. And again, we're talking about podcast versus YouTube channel, and we're gonna hear her thoughts about it. She does two videos like this, so we're gonna hear her thoughts about it. And let's hear what she has to say. So let's come back to the big screen. And again, it is muted.
Whether or not podcasters are happy with their decision to start free editing apps that you can get either on your phone or on your computer. Now, with that being said, as I'm sure you're talking about the pros and cons of starting a YouTube channel versus a podcast. First, we'll discuss the pros of each, starting with a podcast. Podcasts can be very affordable to start. As we discussed before, you can start them
cheap
with your phone and a couple of free apps. And they're a great way to work out your message to the world and build your audience at the same time. Some other benefits of podcasting include that your listeners will feel very intimately connected with you because they are listening to the tone of your voice. They'll also perceive you as an authority, even if you don't yet have a large audience. And there's two reasons for that. First of all, because they're hearing your voice but not seeing your face, they'll automatically perceive you as an authority. They won't see your flaws or your natural human expressions, but they'll just hear you speaking your truth. The second reason that your listeners will perceive you to be an authority, even if you don't yet have a large audience, is because they won't be seeing any numbers on how popular you really are. So when someone finds your podcast, they won't know whether 3 people listen or 3 million people listen. They'll just hear the words that you're saying and take them for their face value. Something about a podcast that is really different from a YouTube channel is that you're able to keep your listeners' attention for a much longer period of time. The main reason for this is because it's actually harder to turn off a podcast or switch to a different episode than it is to just continue listening. If the listener does nothing, then the podcast will keep on playing. But in order to switch to a different activity or turn that podcast off, they actually have to pick up their device and push a button. So even if you get to a boring part of your episode, many people will continue listening, and then you'll get to a more interesting point. The other reason why it's so much easier to keep your listeners' attention is because unlike on YouTube, there aren't a million distractions right there.
Yes.
We all know that here on YouTube, there's all those suggested videos over on the side. YouTube is constantly tempting your viewers away. However, that doesn't exist on a podcast, and so it's much easier to keep your listeners' attention. And that leads us to the next benefit of a podcast. Because it's easier to keep your listeners' attention, it's also easier to build a deeper relationship with them. Unlike on a YouTube channel where the average view duration is somewhere around 5 minutes or so, the average duration of a podcast listen is much closer to 30 minutes.
And that's huge when it comes to podcasting. That's huge. That's a huge difference in retention rates. Huge difference.
I'm sure you would assume 30 minutes gives you a lot more time to build a much deeper relationship with the listener than if they're just watching your video for about 5 minutes. The last two benefits of a podcast are benefits that it shares with a YouTube channel, and they are these. First of all, a podcast is a great way to build your email list and to develop a relationship with your customers.
Yes.
And second of all, a podcast can be very profitable. Not only can you have sponsors on a podcast, but you also can promote your own products. Now let's move on and talk about some of the benefits of starting a YouTube channel. Now, a lot of these are very similar to the benefits of starting a podcast, so I'm going to skim over some of these so that this video doesn't end up way too long. Just like a podcast, a YouTube channel can be very affordable to start. However, a YouTube channel has an added benefit that it also is extremely easy. Now, there's nothing all that complicated about starting a podcast, but we'll talk more about that later when we're talking about the cons of starting a podcast. However, a YouTube channel couldn't be easier. In fact, you probably already have your channel about halfway created if you have an account here on YouTube or you have a Gmail account. With just a couple clicks of your mouse, you can turn that existing account into an have a network, you can start to organically grow your audience without directly promoting your channel at all. Another advantage that a YouTube channel shares with a podcast is that it allows you to build a strong connection with your audience. However, it does it in a slightly different way. A podcast builds a strong connection because your listeners are hearing your voice and they're listening for an extended period of time. A YouTube channel, on the other hand, builds that connection with your audience because they're listening to your voice and they're seeing your face. And that leads us on to the next
And I think she left out the comment. She left out the comment section really, and like the community posts and the aspect of live streaming on YouTube. One of the biggest from Pat Flynn. One of the biggest things when it comes to a YouTube channel is really that engagement, right? It doesn't match the engagement of a Twitch, but it's still better than a podcast. So YouTube really kicks it into gear when it comes to engagement.
Benefit of a YouTube channel, which is that your audience will see you as their cool friend and they'll see you as a very human. So this is a little bit different than a podcast. When people listen to your podcast, they'll see you more as an authority. Whereas when people watch your YouTube channel, they'll see you as very human, more like a friend, but a cool friend, because clearly you're doing something awesome, you're sharing your ideas on the internet, maybe you're doing some other interesting things as well. So as you're starting to decide whether a podcast or a YouTube channel is right for you, think about that. How do you want people to perceive you? Are you looking more to be a leader in your industry, to be seen as an authority? Or are you trying to increase your social credibility and help your audience understand that you're a human, their time? And what the algorithm wants to do is to suggest videos to those viewers that will really interest them and will automatically find viewers for you that want to watch your videos. They'll find the perfect audience for you. So if you don't already have an audience, then really pay attention to this, because this is one of the main reasons why starting a YouTube channel might be the right fit for you. The final 3 advantages of starting a YouTube channel are benefits that it shares with starting a podcast. The first of those is that it gives you the opportunity to work out your message and to build your brand. Essentially, this gives you a chance to improve your skill and improve what you're sharing with the world.
Absolutely.
Running a YouTube channel is also great for building your email list and for building relationships with your customers. In fact, it's even better at that than podcasts because it also brings new people into your brand more effectively. And finally, just like a podcast, a YouTube channel can be very profitable. Not only can you work with sponsors, but you can also promote your own products or services. And one unique advantage of a YouTube channel is their ability to make ad revenue. By literally changing just one setting, you can have ads enabled on your channel so that
And that is not something that you can do with podcasts at all. Like it's just the ad revenue, the ad share is just not a thing when it comes to podcasting.
Automatically, and you start making passive income month after month. Now let's discuss the cons of a podcast and the cons of a YouTube channel. Both have a few problems. First, what are the negatives of starting a podcast? The first one is that a podcast can be a little bit challenging to start. That's because unlike YouTube, where there is a large corporation that is trying to make the process as easy and efficient as possible so that more and more people do it, podcasting isn't regulated by any large company, which is in many ways a good thing, but it does mean that the process of getting a podcast up and running is a little bit hobbled together and takes a little bit more detective work. The second challenge I've already discussed, and that's that a podcast can be difficult to get momentum with, especially if you're first starting out and you don't have much of a network or audience yet. And that leads us right on into the third and final con that I'll mention right now for a podcast, and that's that it really requires promotion. Unlike a YouTube channel that can grow organically quite easily, you're going to have to actually actively promote your podcast, either to your current network, to your family and friends, or else on the podcast, beg your listeners to please tell their friends about it and share it with their network. Now, even though a podcast has some pretty significant disadvantages, a YouTube channel has several as well.
I think that's a huge, right? That is a huge disadvantage. In my personal opinion, that is a huge disadvantage. You can passively grow your YouTube channel by, just simply just sharing your links out and doing the proper SEO and things like that, and it can get traction based on the algorithm. There's no such thing like that for a podcast. You have to promote it, you have to share it out, you have to, make sure the people listening share it out as well. That's a huge difference for me when it comes to podcasting and having a YouTube channel. Let's hear what you got to say on YouTube.
One is probably the biggest, and that's that it can be really tough to keep your viewers' attention. As I talked about before, there's all these tempting suggested videos over here on the side column, and if a viewer is watching a YouTube video, there's a good likelihood that they are in their internet browser or they're staring at their phone, and there's many other opportunities for things they could click on to distract their attention away from your video. Another little con of starting a YouTube channel is that it can be a bit more expensive than a podcast. Cameras cost more than microphones, and there are a lot more extra accessories that you can buy to improve your video quality than there are to improve a podcast. Another con of running a YouTube channel is that your viewers won't necessarily perceive you as being an authority. Because they see your face and your facial expressions, they see how absolutely human you are, and they'll also see your background, which might just be your house, and there's no problem with that, but it might not lend the air of credibility or professionalism to your...
I don't know about all that. I don't know about that. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one, but we're going to let her finish.
...videos that you would really like to condone on your brand. And the final negative that I'll mention with a YouTube channel is that increasing...
Well, I'll give it 1 point. Like, I seen a video of this guy who reviewed, like, all the capture cards. His background looked crazy as hell. He had pill bottles on the table. I was like, bro, like, what are you doing? Come on, son. What are we doing?
Your video production quality is more challenging than just increasing the production quality of a podcast.
That's true.
There are a lot of variables, everything from how it is edited to what your lighting was like to the camera that you're shooting it on. And not only can all of those variables cost you money, but they also can take a lot of time to really perfect or even improve. Okay, so at this point we have covered a lot of information. We've talked about the audience, and you want to build a deeper relationship.
As I said before, dudes be in cars, and that's a huge thing, right? You know what? I'll give it 50-50 on that one, right? Because you got guys, you got the guys that be in the cars and the messy background, and you want to listen to them, right? You really want to listen to them, but you just looking at the video and you're like, dude, yo, shit look crazy, man. If you're looking like the guys are like podcasting from like behind the chicken shack, dudes be live streaming in the dark and shit. They be like, hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy with another video. Let's talk about these top. And you're like, dude, like, what are we doing right now, man? Like this live stream, like this podcasting that's having the phone pointed towards the river and shit like that. Like, what are we doing, son? Yeah, so I'll give her 50-50. I'll give old girl 50-50 on that one, right? Because it really depends on the background, but I would love to do a video talking about backgrounds and setups, right? Because that's easy. I think I might do that tonight. We'll do that as part of this whole spiel, and I'll just clip that out and upload as a separate video.
With them. Do you have ideas worth sharing that take time to
It's only 10:30 my time, so we early. We early today. We got time to get into the weeds with the shit.
explain? You aren't very comfortable on camera. Although, hint, hint, nobody's comfortable on camera when they
Okay, we're done. We're done with this one. Shout out to her for that video. Shout out to her for that video. Excellent video. She got another video with Pat Flynn. I don't want to hear that. I think that's kind of redundant at this point. I think let me know, the people that's watching, like, do you think you have an idea of the difference between podcasting and a YouTube channel? Let me know. Talk to me in the chat room. Like, what are you thinking? Do you think that you have an understanding of what the difference is between a podcast and a YouTube channel? Do you think you have an understanding of these concepts? Let me know. Because again, one of the biggest differences from a podcast and a YouTube channel is that, you know, you can actually talk to the people, interact with them directly. And the reason why I'm doing this live stream is because a lot of people don't really understand the difference between a podcast and a YouTube channel. And they're running their podcast like a YouTube channel, when you should run your YouTube channel. Professor Black Ops says yes, I appreciate it. And again, like, you know, people watching, like, you get more value if you know, if you interact, you'll get more value. I promise you. You'll get more value when you interact with me. I promise you. When I'm on a talk show, I feel it's more of a podcast. Yeah. So the things like, there's a different, like, you can't run your YouTube channel like a podcast because your strategy is a little bit messed up, right? So now let's talk about the whole video podcasting thing, the Joe Rogan formula. So as you know, with Joe Rogan, I don't even think does Joe Rogan even still have his videos on YouTube? Because I know he deleted about 2 billion videos from his channel. Let me see. 1.2, I think. Okay, let me see something. All right.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
So what happens? You got a cost.
So let's come take a look at Joe Rogan so I can break this down. All right, so we got Joe Rogan on the screen. So now Joe Rogan signed a $151 million deal with Spotify. So is that Reggie Watt? Is that the comedian?
If I want to make that non-fungible, then
Wow, Reggie lost a lot of weight. Wow. Anyway, so Joe Rogan has signed a $151 million deal with Spotify. So now the Joe Rogan shows is exclusively on Spotify. He still has his YouTube channel. So what he did was he deleted all his long format live streams off of YouTube and pretty much sent them over to Spotify. And now what you have on YouTube is clips of the video podcast from Spotify uploaded on YouTube. So let's just look at Dave Chappelle, right?
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Look, you get out in that world, Joe, you're famous everywhere. You've never been to these places, but when you get there, they're going to know you. Or there's a thing that happened to me years ago in London. It means, but, you know, could have been better.
humbling.
It was humbling, but it made me want to go back. And the shows were like, every show was like 20.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
So first of all, man, congratulations. You're the first guy to beat the system. You're the first guy to get fucked over by the system, go public with it, and then get your...
Wasn't a
Okay. So what you can take away from this is that this is a video. This is the video podcasting format. So you have the guy, you have the host interacting with the guest, and again, this is still following the format of host and guest, right? So this doesn't really include the whole panel, 10,000 people talking at the same time about nothing concept, right? This isn't included in this conversation. So with that being said, simply put, you can use this as a video podcast, or you can have this as content on your channel and then simply upload the audio as a podcast separately to spread out your social media influence. Or you can also cut the clips up of this video podcast and send it out to different platforms as snippets like TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. And you can diversify your influence on social media by recycling your content. Like I said before, if you got a 3-hour live stream, you got about 3 hours worth of content. You got a week's worth of content that you can just re-upload everywhere and cut and snip and edit and chop and screw it up to your heart's content. But what also matters is the quality of the content. You see, it's hard to chop up panel conversations with terrible audio and video. That doesn't really look great when you're repurposing the content. You have to do a lot of editing. And coming back, when it comes to the creation process, it takes less time to edit a podcast strictly full of audio than it does a video podcast with video and audio. The time for editing and production values is shortened because all you have to do really is fix the audio for an audio podcast. When it comes to a video podcast, you got to fix the video, edit the video, and fix the audio as well. Being a simple setup, right? You got the Shure, you probably got a podcaster or some kind of superior mixer that he's using. I don't know what he uses. Again, like I said before, I don't watch Joe Rogan, so I'm not 100% invested in his content, but I'm just using it as an example. Sure, some 7B.
So I was able to
high quality headphones. I can't tell the brand. I don't know what that says, but yeah, Sure has some framework. Boom arm, yeah. So come back to the chat room. What's going on? All right. Now, the Gillian Perkins video, she talked about equipment and gear. And I like to talk about equipment and gear a lot on this channel. And the thing that you have to kind of understand is that there really isn't that much of a difference between the gear that you're using for a audio podcast or for a video podcast or for simply a YouTube channel. There isn't that much of a difference. What's really important is the strategy behind the content. And that's what people get really caught up on, is the content strategy. And that's what gets left out of the equation, is the content strategy. How are you using and repurposing your content to spread your message out and get more bang for your buck when you're doing a video, when you're doing a live stream? So if you're live streaming, right? If you want to have a video podcast, and you just record your live stream and edit your live stream and re-upload it as clips of a video podcast on a separate channel. Simply put, you can do that. But I want to segue and I want to talk about some gear now. So, we got the Monocaster, right? We still got this right here. the Monocaster, the all-in-one, the AU AM200 starter bundle. This is amazing. This is great to start a podcast. Great to start a YouTube channel. Excellent piece of tech. I did a YouTube review, overview, breakdown, understanding for 3 hours. It is an amazing device. Again, like I've told 8 when it's timeless. He copped it after the video. And it's only for $99. Check out my channel. Videos on my channel. If it wasn't for the fact that we're in a pandemic and, you know, I'm not outside every day like after work or on lunch, I would keep the device and I would carry it around with me in my book bag, and I would get a protective case with it, and I would use that as my outside live streaming. Yeah, I would actually keep it. It has an 8-hour battery life, and I can just go outside, hook up a lavalier mic, hook up my other phone, play music on it, and just rock out on. And I will do that on a separate channel or whatever. Now, coming back to the whole podcasting and video podcasting, if we're talking about podcasts, you know, we're going to talk about the microphone very first. Now, it's something that, you know, Pat Flynn said, the other woman said, that I don't want people to get confused. Video is just as important as audio, even going with whatever Gary Vaynerchuk said. Video and audio are very important, but they are important at different levels depending on the content that you're doing. If you're solely doing a podcast, and that means an audio podcast, not just not a video podcast. If you're solely doing an audio podcast, then 100% your audio is pertinent above all else. You need to have crisp audio, but having crisp audio doesn't mean you need to spend hundreds upon hundreds of dollars, right? You just need to have a proper mic so that you can be heard clearly, and the rest can be done when it comes to editing and in post-production. So we're gonna come over here. You know how I do. You know, we're over here on Amazon, the usual. And what I want to show you now is just the various options you can do. Now, you have mics out the ass that you can look at, right? And I don't know a lot of these mics, so I'm not just gonna, oh, look at that mic, I'm gonna tell you something. Tell you to get this mic. So first up on the menu, we got, again, the Blue Yeti. And I know people say don't use this mic. You're supposed to have a different mic. I'm gonna tell you now, if you have the Blue Yeti and you want to start a podcast that is strictly on audio, and you don't want to spend a crap ton of money, there is no shame in your game when getting a Blue Yeti. There's none. I 100% support the Blue Yeti if you're starting out, right? That's the Blue Yeti there. That's the big one. Then you got the Snowball. And the thing is, the Snowball sounds just the same, right? So where's the Snowball at? Okay. We got the Snowball. And the Snowball is a little bit cheaper, and they pretty much sound the same. So, and that's just one of the many options you have. But I don't want to turn people away from getting a Blue Yeti because they want to start a podcast and they feel that they shouldn't use that. 100% you can use this. What you're doing is now you're getting the mic, and then all your focus is to treat this in post-production with audio editing software, whether it is Audition, Audition, and I think it's Audacity, right? Whatever you got. And we got all the mics in the world that you can look at, right? And again, like, you got the Quadcaster, an excellent mic. That's my baby right there, the AT2020, an excellent, powerful condenser microphone. You got the Elgato Wave. That's another great microphone. You know, the options are endless. when it comes to whatever microphone you want to use. But when it comes to strictly audio podcasting, what's going to make or break your podcast is the software and the post-production when it comes to editing your audio. So you got to understand how to edit your audio, how to remove the noise, kill the pauses, and how to speak clearly into the mic so that you can be heard clearly. So you got to understand and learn how to edit audio. So it doesn't even matter. Let's say, okay, you want to be a big podcaster like Joe Rogan. Okay. You got the Shure SM7B. Then you got the podcaster, the Rode Podcaster Pro or Go XLR. And now you're a big time podcaster, but your audio sounds like garbage because you don't know how to edit it. So what's the point? What's the point of having this if you're not even editing your audio? You don't know how to tweak your audio, to boost your audio, to fix your audio. What's the point of having this? So that's so that's the main selling point. That's really one of the most important things when it comes to strictly audio podcast. You gotta edit that audio. You gotta make sure that audio sounds good and clean and crisp. Now, we can come back. Let me see right here. And DJ. We got mixers. And again, you could get whatever mixer you want that you're comfortable with. You get a Pioneer DJ mixer. You can get any of these Behringer mixers. You can get the Rode Podcaster Pro. You can get the Go XLR. It doesn't matter. That's all depends on your preferences. It doesn't even matter at that point, right? There's no, you have to get this mixer to do a podcast. But if we're going to start talking about video podcasting, Nick. Got Nick in the building. What's going on, Nick? Nick Taylor in the building. This is my baby right here, the Go XLR. I love this thing. I definitely stand by this product. It's an amazing product. And I would tell you right now, if you want to get a really great mixer audio interface for solo broadcasting, podcasting, this is it right here. One and done with this bad boy right here. Sound effects, great audio, LEDs, great amps, great controls, interface. Software is very intuitive. I mean, it's hands down, right? The best. But again, we're talking about video podcasting. So again, we're going to the video podcasting. Your audio is just as important as your video. You have to have your video on point. Now, when we look at video podcasting, let's say if you're doing it from your room, from your house, then we look at a webcam. Again, we come to the GOAT, the C920 right here. And again, like I say all the time when it comes to webcams, the lighting matters just as much, if not more, than the actual webcam itself, right? If you have crappy lighting, you don't know how to do the lighting properly, whatever webcam, whatever video camera you got is gonna look like garbage because you're not using lighting properly to maximize the visuals. So you can get the C920 right there. That's the C920. Or if you're saying, okay, I want a video podcast, but I want to have it nice looks and I want to have it look nice and professional, you can get a camera like the ZV-1. And you get the ZV-1, then you hook this up. Great autofocus, great color. The autofocus actually competes with the Sony Alpha camera, so that's one of the great things. Flip out screen. You attach this to a capture card or a capture card deck, capture card machine, whatever you want to do. Output that to your computer or just record if you're doing video podcasting. We're not even talking about live streaming at this point. And you record your video podcast like that, and then you have your mic picking, you have your mic. Or you can get something better. You get a DSLR. Again, we can go all the way up. We can go all the way up to the Canon 5D Mark IV. No, let's not do that. We got the Canon EOS R, right? Full frame camera. You get that with the 24-70. Great focal length. very sharp at 28. And that's your video podcasting setup right there. And because it's wide, you can do that for 1 or 2 people, or 2 or 3 people, or 3 or 4 people, whichever way you want it to set up. Because if you look at H3, we're gonna look at H3. Again, I don't watch their channel. I'm not a big fan of these people either, but I'm just using them as an example.
And we're back. Oh no, welcome to Friday.
Oh God, she's trash. I can't. I'm not. No, we're not doing that. I can't stand that person.
You're listening to the H3 podcast.
Oh my God, we're here and late. You guys. I'm telling you, man. Whenever I'm a little bit late, we got everybody in the chat threatening to take my WikiFeed score.
That's right.
You support that?
Well, I want you to be on time.
Well,
Didn't even get to.
Yeah, they completely changed their format for some reason. They never even used to stream. Their podcast never even used to be like this.
All odds, we have returned. The haters.
So okay, so let's break this whole format down right here, right? So you got H3. For whatever reason, she's using a Shure SM7B, and he's using an RE320, probably because their voices are so different that the 2 mics sound the best with their voice for whatever reason. Again, I wouldn't tell you to buy multiple mics for multiple guests and different mics for different guests, but whatever you want to do, right? Now, they got it more simpler here, and they used to use a varying different camera angles at a 3/4 view or whatever the description is. But now it's very simple: face forward recording, camera in front, not multiple angles, probably because of the COVID issue, so less people working in them in studio, which makes complete sense. So now we got the video podcast model. Another example from H3, camera facing forward, recording the audio, very simple. Background looks absolutely amazing, custom artwork and whatever. And now they're like reacting to videos, and this is recorded, and you have the video in the picture-in-picture type setup. Again, this is a great way to do a video podcasting. And I know a lot of people thinking the video podcasting is panels. Yes and no. And I think you're making your life difficult by doing it like this. And now we got another version. Let's peep this.
But now I can wear it. People can't complain. The shame is though that like it's such a cool shirt. We got mobility scooter memes.
What is that? It's
Quick commercial break, and it is quick. I'm telling you, we don't have any ads left. Teddy Fresh is being canceled. I mean, you have beautiful designs. It's lush. It's soft. It's caressing. It's wonderful. It makes your day better knowing that you're gonna have a place. What does that mean? Thompson comes grande.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing, right? You got the video. You got them breaking everything down. Very simple, right? And I want to go back 2 years ago, 3 years ago. There we go.
Welcome everybody
Okay, here
to
we
the
go.
H3
So now
podcast
this is
live. Today's episode is
this is the more complex setup with multiple cameras at different angles.
Sponsored by.
In my opinion, I think there are a lot of YouTubers who are trying to like
Shure SM7B, acoustic foam in the background, looks like Joe Rogan.
start the game up, boom, your viewer. You literally, I promise you.
It annoys me.
And then again, this is a 2-camera setup. They're both using Shure SM7Bs. Yo. Scoop in the building. What's going on? So now they got the 2 Shure SM7Bs, 2 camera angles. So this is a 2-camera video podcast setup.
It's like imagine.
Oh, dude, if he was, and here's the thing, man, if they're actually like in.
Make it a 3-camera podcast. Because
if you're using
that's his wife in the third shot. So now you got a 3-camera setup. Okay, so we got a 3-camera setup, and there should be a 4th camera here. There should be a 4th camera because There's usually okay. Here goes the fourth camera. So now this is the fourth camera. Okay, so this is a 4 camera. I just copped an Elgato Wave 3. Excellent mic, man. That Wave software is legit. Absolutely, that Wave software is legit. I talked about a lot. It helps a lot with controlling the audio. Get voice meter on there. You get your voice meter banana or potato, and you're gonna sound like $1 million, kid. Shout out to Scoop. Got the Wave 3 in the building. About to sound like a big professional bye. Big professional bye. Podcast bye. Big professional podcast bye in the building. Shout out to Scoop, man. I can't wait to hear you on that mic. So H3H3 back in the day was using a 4 camera setup for their video podcasting. We got 3 front shots, 1 quarter angle, 3/4. I don't remember the description of this angle. I think it's like 3/4 or whatever. Anyway, right? Come back up here to the cameras again. When it comes to a video podcasting, your audio is just as. I have voice meter banana. There we go. Voice meter banana is legit. Once you get onto the Reaper filters, voice meter banana kind of comes. It becomes a hassle for me. I don't use it anymore because my mixer and my Reaper plugins just do the rest. I don't need it. Anyway, with the voices I do, it picks up so much different inflections. Absolutely, right? A lot of that. And I mean, just imagine if you got an even more high quality mic, right? How that would sound. Catered more towards your voice, right? Just imagine. Yeah, I can't wait to hear Scoop on the Elgato Wave. It's an excellent mic. Excellent mic. But again, that's a USB mic. Like, I'm not going to tell anyone to not get a USB mic for a podcast. That don't make no sense. Come on, son. What are we doing? Stop that. Excellent mic. You get a USB mic. The way you improve that mic is with the software. There's no other hardware you can use to make that mic sound better. You need the software to bump that mic up. Voice meter. If you're using a mic for OBS, Reaper plugins, you need the software. So that's why you got to use software to pick up where the hardware is lacking. Message. So, you know, we're talking about video, and your video podcast is so important. Like, again, I'm gonna drill this in, to have the video and audio on point. So many people that do video podcasts, it's, you know, people talk about audio, but the video is boo boo. You know, is you know, trash water. You can't do that. Got it. They both got to be on point and liquid smooth, man. And it's so important. I'm gonna come back to you guys in the chat room.
Never buy none more. If I can't afford to gift wrap, stand in your foreign car. You keep riding rental tags.
So, and I think there's a clear similarity between video podcasting and live streaming. To me, they're kind of one and the same. It's just one is live and the other is not. Which makes it even better for people who are live streaming, because you can simply just re-upload and edit your... Excuse me. You can simply just re-edit the live stream and upload it as a video podcast. There you go, right there. Looks like the green screen is phasing through me. Let's fix that. Okay, much better. For whatever reason, the green screen looks better on this screen than it does on the actual screen. I don't know why. For whatever reason, I can't tell you why. 1 second. There we go. I want to change that up a little bit. So, like, let me know what you think about video podcasting. I think the best thing to understand is how to just simply repurpose your content into other forms of content to simplify the creative process and to shorten the time it takes to create content. It makes your life so much easier when you understand that concept. And again, when we go back to video podcasting, you don't need, I showed us $1,800 full frame camera. You don't need a full frame camera, right? You can use a video cam, you can use a webcam. If all you got is a cell phone, you can use your cell phone. You can use whatever you want. You just gotta overcome the flaws of the hardware with software, which is proper editing, proper color correction. If you've seen my channel, if you've subscribed to my channel, I recently did a video talking about LUTs for OBS. And the beauty of LUTs in OBS is that you can color correct your live stream to suit any color you want. Okay? And this is, my live stream with no color correction at all. Again, this is color correct. This is the color correction. This is 1 LUT, 2 LUTs, 3 LUTs brings the color back. And you can mix and match depending on what you want, depending on the look that you want to have. And you got, you can just mix it up however you want your live stream to look. That's color correction. That's color grading. That's tweaking and improving the hardware, which is the video camera, with software to overcome whatever deficits you may have. Let's see what else we got. So at the end of the day, I don't think one is better than the other. I just really think that it depends on how you repurpose your content and how do you get more out of your content, and what is your content strategy with podcasting, with video podcasting, with content on your YouTube channel that includes podcasting, that includes video podcasting, that includes uploads, and that includes live streams. Like, how are you incorporating these different ways you can produce content on your platform and on social media? How are you incorporating these different ways to maximize your reachability, to maximize your ability to create content, to maximize your creativity? You should never limit yourself to just YouTube, and you should never limit yourself to just live streaming. You shouldn't limit yourself to just uploading. You shouldn't limit yourself to video podcasting. You shouldn't limit yourself to podcasting. If you can add more wrinkles to add more pages to your book, I would say, and it's easy to do, and it's not time consuming to do, then definitely do it. Definitely do it. Like I've been saying for months, if not years, take the live stream content that you have, edit it, re-upload it as a separate upload. There go your uploads for YouTube. But the problem is that a lot of people come and they talk about panels. Obviously, you can't use panel content because it's not up to snuff, right? It's not up to snuff. There's a lot of editing. But if you're doing live streams like this, absolutely you can just repurpose this. It looks nice as hell. No problem whatsoever to do that. It looks great. Upload clips, upload that, you're good to go. So that's the main takeaway I have, is learn how to repurpose your content. Learn the strategy that you need to implement to get the most out of your content strategy, whatever that content strategy is. But definitely, most definitely, please have a content strategy so you are not bumping your head into the wall and you're not wasting your time. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is when you hear that song. I mean, we had a great stream. Hope you got a lot of value. Hope you got a lot of information. But, when you hear this, all it's time for me to get out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Shout out to the people watching. Shout out to the people watching on replay. I greatly appreciate it. It's been a great live stream. It's been a great little presentation. I hope you got some value out of it. I hope you learned to do something better. Like Black Ops said, you know, I get a lot of information from this channel. I greatly appreciate that. If you could let me know that in the chat room and the comment section. If you get a lot of value, you learn something when you tune into your boy, the technician. It's been great. It's been wonderful. But you know, till next time. Thank you. Goodbye. Good night.
It's the end of